This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by GameFly. Go to gamefly.com/TYT for a free trial membership.
Let's talk about this idea of the tax cuts for the rich and the compromise deal that Obama and the Republicans came up with. First of all, the mainstream media, the Washington media, loves this deal, okay? They think it is a wonderful centrist compromise. That's the words that they use always to defend more breaks for the rich and the powerful and the bailouts for the Wall Street. Everything that helps the rich and powerful are sensible centrist compromise. Anything that the American people are actually in favor of, that's radical liberalism, et cetera, et cetera. So let me give you perfect examples so you know that I'm not making it up. Here are quotes. First of all, we've got Roger Simon writing for Politico, and he starts his article this way. He says, the rich are different from you and me. They are swine. So say many of the Democrats in the House of Representatives who would rather that jobless people lose their unemployment checks and middle-class people lose their income tax breaks than that the rich get a dime extra. So the charge is liberals think that rich people are swine. And then he goes on in the rest of the article to explain that, in fact, it's the American dream to get rich and you work your way up, et cetera. Really? I didn't know that. I wanted to stay poor my whole life. Of course we all want to get rich. We're Americans. It's not that we hate the rich. It's that, hey, you know what? Maybe we should stop giving them tax break after tax break because we have huge deficit problems. But did you notice the second part? That he turned it around and said the Democrats are willing to sacrifice unemployment. But wait a minute, the Republicans are the ones blocking the unemployment. They've been blocking it this whole time. He said the Democrats are the ones that would stop the middle-class tax cuts. No, the Republicans just voted to stop the middle-class tax cuts unless they got the tax cuts for the rich too. But no, not in Washington media world. In Washington media world, it's always the Democrats' fault, and if liberals ever fight back, they're radicals and they hate rich people. All right, so that's number one. Point number two, we go to Matt Bai. Matt Bai had written earlier in New York Times, as this is Obama's conundrum on this issue, he can side either with centrist reformers in both parties who would overhaul both cherished entitlements and the tax system, or with traditional liberals. Let me continue. Who prefer new levies on the wealthy and substantial cuts in military spending. Yeah, those are the two options. All right. You're getting a sense here? Oh, the beautiful centrists who are looking to reform the system. Or the damn liberals with their hatred of the wealthy and they want to cut the military. You know how they are. But all that pales in comparison to Dana Milbank at the Washington Post. He wrote an article about how finally Barack Obama has stood up and shown his spine in fighting against the powerful liberals in the House. The powerful liberals in the House. The ones that always get their way. What a joke this is. All right, here it is. For second paragraph of the article, he says, I'm proud that he, meaning Barack Obama, has finally stood firm against the likes of Peter DeFazio. Peter DeFazio is a fairly liberal Democrat who almost always loses these days, and actually for the last 10 years, in the votes, because shockingly enough, it turns out if you're on the side of the middle class and the average American, as opposed to the rich and the powerful, you wind up losing a lot. But in Dana Milbank's world, Peter DeFazio rules the world. These House liberals, they're in charge. And Barack Obama showed such courage by standing up to them. I mean, how can they possibly believe this? But it gets worse. Here's near the end of his article. He says, quote, liberals, if they can see beyond their peak, should realize that the emergence of Obama's forceful leadership could be good for them. This time he stood against his Democratic colleagues. But there's reason to hope that he'll show his newly discovered spine to the Republicans the next time. Go ahead. Who has he ever shown his spine to but the liberals? The next time we're going to get him to show spine against the Republicans next time. Next time? Okay. Oh, by the way, and to be accurate here, it's not that Obama's never been tough on people. He's always tough on the liberals. For example, Dorgan, who's not that much of a liberal, a senator from North Dakota, said, hey, why don't we import drugs from Canada at much lower rates? That helps the people of North Dakota and all across the country because we'll pay, the people, the middle class will pay a lot less. And Obama crushed him. They sent out the army and they said, all right, to all you Democrats who are with Dorgan, you know, we're going to do this against you and we're going to do that against you. And they beat it back to protect the drug industry and to protect their monopoly and to protect their profits. Now, they have done that on occasion after occasion. When people wanted the public option, including Peter DeFazio, they came and hammered him and said, no, 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 we made a deal, man. We made a deal with the industry. We're not going to give you no stinking public option. Shut up and vote for it, what we and the Republicans want. Okay. But Dana Milbank is encouraged that next time it'll be the Republicans. Peter DeFazio, like the House liberals being in charge, is a fantasy. Now, and look, why is the mainstream media doing this? Because they are the status quo. They are the establishment. All these guys got their jobs by sucking up the power. Matt Taibbi of Rolling Stone wrote a great article about this. He said, look, it's what I say all the time. It's not that these guys are bad guys. And I know Matt Bai a little bit, and personally I like the guy, right? It's that, how do they wind up being the main reporters at the New York Times, the Washington Post, etc.? Because as soon as they start writing pseudo-progressive columns where they say, oh, I mean, theoretically, it would be great if we could get progressive policy, but of course we should never do that because of centrist compromise, etc., and then bipartisanship and post-partisanship, and that should all go in favor of whatever the Republicans want and whatever tax cuts we can give the rich and the corporate America, right? As soon as they write that, New York Times and Washington Post calls you up. They go, okay, great job, we'd like to hire you. And that's how it works. He's right. It's the system self-selecting the people that it likes. Those guys like the status quo. We are the status quo. We hire them. They write these articles. And in the end, we ignore the will of the American people, by the way, which was 67% of the American people saying no tax cuts for the rich. Did you get that sense from any of their articles? No. You got the exact opposite sense because that's what they're paid to do.
Cenk, people don't know this about me, but I'm an underground gamer. I love to play video games.
Well, then you're going to love our new sponsor, GameFly. They're the largest online video game rental service in the world. 7,000 titles, new and classic. Also, no late fees, no due dates. Shipping's always free.
Go to GameFly.com/TYT for a free trial membership.